and Livy's history, and was up to book 147. Tum vero. Taking vero as a post-positive, it can mean but. Sometimes you might just want to say indeed or truly. So, but then indeed, indes means from day to day. The senectus tale, the old age of Tullius, was more infestio, was growing more hostile, and infestius coepit regnum esse. So we have this version of infestius here. And so it looks like any hostility towards his kingdom was beginning to grow as well. For now already, yam enum, from a scalere, from a crime to another crime, the mulia, the woman, the wife, was spectaring. The woman was looking to go from one crime to another. After all, they'd just committed crimes. So, nec nocte, neither by night nor interdia during the daylight, was the virum allowed to have any concoresca, any rest, lest the, there's no meaning lest, taking this subjunctive imperfect, lest the parricide, the crimes that they'd just committed, praeterita, the one that had just gone by, should be gratuita, without any payment or payoff for having committed this crime that they'd done. Non sibi, sibi is known as reflective. De fuisi comes from de sum, de esse usually means to be lacking. So it was not tkui to her who wanted to be called digeritor anupta. So she didn't just want it, was lacking that she wanted for herself to be named as a married woman. Nec cum quo, nor with him did she want to be serving tacita silently. So this would be the husband, that quo. What was defuissing, what was lacking, was he who, say for himself, putrat, was thinking himself to be dignum, worthy of the kingdom, to possess the kingdom. Who, memonisset, who would have remembered himself, say again, to be the filium Priscae Tarquini, the son of Priscus Tarquinus. And qui, who is the end of the sentence, who preferred to have rather than spere, than to hope for the regnum, for the kingdom. Most of this trouble comes from this woman here. C2 is as. If you, as you are, is he, cui to who, I thought I was, or I think I was going to be nuptem to be married to. So if you were him who I thought I was marrying, et, correlatives, both a virum and a regem appello, I shall call you a man and a king. Sine minus, but if you are less than that, eo nunc, that which now the res, this matter, or the circumstances have changed for the worse, pius mutata, in that istic. Here in this matter, scelus is a crime with ignavia, with cowardice. Quin, why not, it usually means. So why don't you a kingeres? Why don't you gird on your belt, usually with a sword or something in it? Non tibi, it is not to you that from Corinth, nor from Tarquini, as your father, ut patre tuo, it is necessary, yes, taking the infinitive, very common, to maliri, to strive in a foreign kingdom. So his father had come in from to rule this foreign kingdom, but this is not this guy's case. He didn't come from these foreign places. De te penates, the gods, your penates, the household gods, and patri, of your father, possibly even ancestors, in the imago patri, in the image of your father, in the domus regia, in the royal house, in the solium, which is the throne, sometimes it's the bathtub, but here it would be the throne, in the domo regale, in the palace again, so the palace and the throne in this regal house, and nomen Tarquinium, this name has created and called you king. So put that in English how you like, but so the Tarquinian name is created and made him king, so he's born for it really. Ortsi, or if, add hate to these things, parum est your enemy. So if this is the least thing going on in your mind, why are you frustrating the civitatem, the citizenry? Why are you cheating on them, basically? Quid can be why or what, so I'll take it as why are you, why do you sinus, why do you allow yourself to be conspicuous, to be seen as a juvem regium, as a young king or prince, you might want to say. Facesse, take that as an imperative. Make or go away from here. It's got hink, so it'd be go away from here to these accusatives, to Tarquinus or Corinth. So this little bit started with your father came from Corinth and this place, so why don't you go back to this place since you're such a coward, as I think we saw calling him up there. Here's Alice Queer. These things and other things, by increpidoing, by insulting him, I want to say, she instigated or provoked the juvenem, the young man. Neither was there to conquescere for herself, was she able, so she wasn't able to get any rest herself, that if, or in these circumstances, take this cum as a sense, since Tenaquil, a peregrina mulia, a foreign woman, was she able to strive again such a thing in her mind, so that in two continua regna, that two continual holders of the kingdom, you might want to say, these men who held the kingdom, and so Vero would be the husband, and then in turn the genere, the son-in-law, that is it was given. So herself, this would be Talia here. So we have Tenaquil, the foreign woman, married to one of the brothers. Anyway, herself, Orta, that's the female version of risen from Semine Regia, from royal seed. So parents were royal. Nulla momentum in dandoing. So in dandoing means in giving, and adamento means in taking away. Faceret regno. So all that little bit means she'll have no influence basically in the giving or taking away of who's ruling the kingdom. So what have we got? That's this section there. Okay, so instinctus. So Tarquinus, the husband, is instinctus, goaded on by his mulibrius furious, by this furious woman with these words. Looks like historical infinitive, which means it's imperfect indicatives. So he began, you might want to insert begin there, because it takes these and there's no actual main verb. He began to circumere, to go around, and to prensare, and to grab, maxime, especially, the patres, the fathers of minorum gentiums, of the lesser influential families, and to admonere, to admonish or ask, or might be reminding, of paterni benefici, of the goodwill of his father, or the kind acts of his fathers, and pro eo, and for himself, to repetere, to seek gratia, influence from them for himself, and to aliquere, and to lure the juvenes, the young men, with donos, with gifts. Scroll a bit. Cum de se. So de se will be concerning himself in the promising polycendo ingentia. That's just, looks like they've made a substantive out of a neuter. So when concerning himself, he promised huge things to these people. And tum, then with regus criminibus omnibus locus, make incriminations or allegations against the king, so he's complaining about them, and crescere. So in all places he increased his own situation. So postremo, adverb. Finally, that now it's visumest, it seemed the tempest, the time, for agending the rest, for carrying out the matter. Stipatus, so he was packed up with a group, with an agmine of amatorums. So it gathered together in an agmine, a column of men, and he inrupated, he burst into the forum. Couple of inns there. Inde omnibus perculsus with pavor. So then, with all struck with fear, in regia said, okay, so regia is probably an adjective, into the royal seat again, pro curia, in front of the curia, which is the senate house. He was sitting on this sed, which would be the throne. Something to do with the patres, the fathers, into the curium, into the senate house, through a praeconem, through a herald. he ordered to King Tarquinius the fathers to be citari, to be summoned. Extempore, on the spot, another adverb, they convenerated, they gathered together. Ali, some, they were already prepared before, preparati, ad hoc to this. So some must have been some of these smaller minor families that he'd gathered together. So a few of these ally here, they were already prepared, and Allah, correlatives. Others with fear, lest fraudi esset. They should be made to have some punishment or crime if they non-venisced. If they didn't come, they were in fear that they'd be punished maybe. With this novitate, with this new and miraculous thing, atonatai. They were stunned, or atonai, that's the plural. And now, ratai again, plural, they were thinking, de servio actum, that servius was actum. What the Loeb has was utterly undone. So they must have thinking he was mad. You wouldn't normally get that from actum, but that's the way it is. Okay, so we'll have our daily dictionary word from this. So Servius was the guy who was being undone. Tarquinius, there in that place, maledicted with bad words also. So he rose up complaining about from stirp ultima. So from the earliest stirp or offspring, it looks like Servius is being complained about here as a servant because he was a slave, and natum from a slave, and born from a slave. So if we go into the particle of actum, we get actum est the aliquo as an example. It is over for someone. The fate of someone is sealed. So if you say actum est someone, which we saw it was Servius, and it even had the day in it here in Livy, that actum de servio means he's done for, because Tarquinius is maledicting that he's offspring of slaves. And post the mortem parentis suus of his father, indignum, he was unworthy, there had not been an interregnum, which is like a period without a king, ut ante as before, initio. So initially they had not had a comitus. This is an assembly where people come together to vote, not through the per suffragium, so not through the votes of the people, populi, not by the authority of the patribuses, of the Senate fathers, had he got power. So they hadn't had a interregnum as before, they hadn't come together to vote, the people hadn't voted, and the fathers hadn't done it. He occupied the regnum, their kingdom, by the dono mulibrae, by a woman's gift. Okay, so iternatum, this was how he was born, this is how he was created king. So Servius come from a slave, a woman had given him the gift, this is the way he was created king. He'd been a fortor, a supporter of the infirmi, the lowest types of generis hominum, of the human race, of the lowest dregs of society, from which he himself he was. So Servius favoured these debased people, and he himself was one. The odio alien, the hatred of others, honestas as well, honest, ereptum the agrum, so the lands had been stolen from the primoribus, from the leading citizens, and given to the dative, to the sordissimo one, the superlative, the most debased type, cui divisi, who had been enriched. Divisi usually means to be enriched. Just about done. So omnia, all things, all these burdens, quae, which once upon a time, quondam, had been communal. So these gifts they'd been inclined into the primor civitatis, to the leading citizens, so which once had been communal, they were inclined towards leading citizens. He had instituted them a census, so that to the invidia, to the envy, exignis of the rich people, so fortune would be the envy of these rich people, and parata, so he was prepared that from what ubi velit, when he wanted to largitero, to bestow, taking the dative, to the against most people in need. Probably need to read it twice really, but all the things which had been common had once upon a time had been inclined towards the leading citizen. He instituted the census, so that there'd be envy of these rich people, and that whenever he wanted, he could take these gifts and give them to the Sordissimus and the Egentissimus, and the most poverty-stricken or needing people, whether you like it or not.